The legend of playoff Paolo is born tonight. Plus, welcome to the playoffs, Jamal Mosley. It's nice to have you here. We'll talk about that as the Orlando Magic defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is April 26, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, playoff Paolo has arrived. How Paolo Banchero put his stamp on Game 3 and showed us why he is the future star. All of his numbers suggest he is stepping up on the biggest of stages, at least the biggest stage he's been on so far. We'll talk about his game, plus the adjustments Jamal Mosley made that helped the Magic run wild all over the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 3. We're going to get to all that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. To search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We have been preparing for the playoffs for a long time. Ever since the Magic got the number one pick, ever since the Magic embarked on this rebuild, we've been thinking about, okay, if we're going to reshape and reform this team into whatever it's going to become, if we're going to reshape this team into eventually a championship team, what is the thing we're going to need? What is the most important thing? Obviously, when the Magic got the number one pick in the 2022 NBA draft, all that attention was put on those three players, Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith, and Chet Holmgren. And before we go any further, all three have turned into fantastic players. Chet Holmgren is a major contributor on the number one seed in the Western Conference. Jabari Smith had a very strong sophomore season. Everyone has turned out okay and turned out right for them. But when we got into that debate, when we got into that discussion about who the Orlando Magic should pick, who is the right person for this team and for this group and this moment, when we got into that discussion, we all knew, what does a star do? And I don't want to rehash every moment of that debate, because obviously I think we're all very happy with who the Magic picked, and this episode is going to tell you why you should be happy as well. But what does a star do? In a playoff series like the one the Magic are in now, what do you need your best player to be able to do? You need them to be able to soak up attention. You need them to be able to hit shots, to hit contested shots, to hit mid-range shots, to hit all kinds of shots. You're going to need them to make others better, to bring others up, but to carry them when necessary. And look, it's not like Paolo Banchero hadn't done that in games 1 and 2. He was really good in games 1 and 2, averaging more than 20 points per game, a 25-5 game in his first ever playoff game, something that only LeBron James and Luka Doncic had done at his age. We're going to continue to look at stats that put him in groups of only, the only players that were doing what Paolo Banchero is doing in the playoffs at 21 years old or younger are LeBron, Luka, and I think like today, he joined a list with Magic Johnson, which is just insane. This guy's really good. But the things that a star does in big games, as Paolo said in the article on ESPN, and he's told us repeatedly, like, this is where he wants to be measured. And so we sat here all year long after an all-star season, after doing everything that he did this year. We sat here and pondered and wondered and waited for the playoffs to say, okay, let's see what playoff Paolo looks like. And again, Paolo hasn't been bad to this point. I will continue. I know I mentioned this on the pod yesterday. Paolo has been one of my bright spots. He's entering game 3, he's shooting about 48% from the floor, which in this series is a miracle in those first 2 games. He was scoring and honestly trying to do the right things, even if he was turning the ball over. But what he did Thursday night in game 3, that's star stuff. And I know I've said that a million times this year. And considering the Magic's history of stars and their dearth of true creators and true scorers from the perimeter, I'm never going to lose appreciation for Paolo Banchero. I am never going to lose the state of wonder over what he's doing, because the Magic, frankly, have not seen a game like the one Paolo Banchero had. Maybe I'll grant you Jameer Nelson in 2010, but with Tracy McGrady sitting in the front row, the Magic haven't had a playoff performance like this since T-Mac was in uniform. I'm glad T-Mac was there to see it, personally. Paolo Banchero took over this game in a lot of ways. In the third quarter, when the Magic had their 15-point lead, and they worked hard to build that, he elevated them and doubled that lead, hitting every shot he threw up at the rim. And knowing full well that Cleveland is sending double and triple teams at him, knowing full well they want him taking those tough fadeaways and tough turnarounds and tough shots in the mid-range. Knowing full well all of that, Paolo beat them anyway. Because here's the truth about the playoffs. Here's the truth about the postseason. Your opponent knows exactly what you're trying to do. You know exactly what your opponent is trying to get you to do. And as we've seen in this series, like the Magic know, Cleveland wants Orlando shooting threes. The Magic took another 37 tonight in game 3. They want them shooting threes, and this series is always going to turn on, can you beat if the defense gives you something, can you beat them with it? It's going to be your weakness. Our friends at Fear the Sword, a Cavs blog, kind of analyzed after 2 games, like the Cavs are happy to let the Magic shoot themselves out of the series. And we all sat here and said, well, the Magic have to make shots. It's the only way they're going to get in this thing. Well, Paolo made shots. Not threes, but he made shots. And the Cavs could only throw their hands up and say, that's a tough shot. Paolo is a tough shot maker. And playoff Paolo is here. This is what you expect from your star player. Because I haven't even told you the stats. 31 points, 13 for 26 shooting, 4 for 9 from 3, 14 rebounds, including 7 offensive rebounds, 5 assists, and most importantly, perhaps, 0 turnovers. That's all in 3 quarters, because he didn't play in the fourth quarter because the Magic were up by so much. After blowing the doors open, leading by 16 at the half, and outscoring the Cavs 35-16, putting the vice grip. The Cavs only scored 38 points in the second half. Orlando had 35 in the third. Magic had 3 30-point quarters after having no 30-point quarters in any game of this series. The Magic hit their series averaged in 3 quarters. Someone finally broke 100 in this series. The Magic absolutely housed Cleveland. And they did it because their defense was just as strong as it was in Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. And the Magic finally hit enough shots to make them respect it. But Paolo's performance put them over the top. This is what a star does. I think back to the game against the Chicago Bulls back in November. When Paolo hit that game-winning shot. And he traveled. But when Paolo hit that game-winning shot, I sat here and I said... And you can go back, listen to that episode back in November. I sat here and I said, this is why the Magic drafted Paolo. Because he can make and take that tough shot. In a big moment, he doesn't shrink. He makes a shot. We saw it in Utah a few weeks earlier than that. We saw it in Detroit this year. How Paolo Banchero didn't get a Clutch Player of the Year award vote just tells me how few people watch the Magic, because that dude is clutch. He made some big shots all throughout the year. We didn't need any clutch moments in this game, of course, but in a moment, in a game where the Magic had to win. Going down 3-0 is not an option. And remember how I've said this, like the difference between a 2-1 series and a 3-0 series is not very much. Going down 3-0 was not an option. This was a must-win game, and obviously energized and powered by the fans at the Kia Center and just the emotion of being back home. Playoff Paolo arrived. Playoff Paolo made a huge statement, a huge claim to stardom on a big stage, in a big game. When his team needed it most, he delivered. And the best part is, this is going to be the first of many. Because now guess what, Paolo Banchero? That bar is set. And you got to do it again Saturday to even this series up. We're going to talk about some of the adjustments that won Game 3. It wasn't just Paolo Banchero. We'll talk about how Jamal Mosley made some key changes to deliver victory for the Orlando Magic. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Nissan. Are you the kind of driver who likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Where our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. Nissan's incredible lineup also includes the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. It has room for up to 8 and expansive cargo capacity and advanced available 4x4 capability in case you want to be like Paolo Banchero and carry everyone with you wherever you're going. With 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing when adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventures. Go shop at nissanusa.com. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also... Hold on, I don't know if I'm... Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off our chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially someone who's unbiased on your life. You can see how cathartic things were for the Magic at the Kia Center, back with all their friends in front of the Magic family. Everybody was in, and you could just feel that release of tension, the release of pressure from being in front of your friends and a trustful ear, people who will understand you, be empathetic, and help you get the job done. That's kind of what therapy is like. This was kind of therapy for all of us. We're all feeling a lot better now, aren't we? Now that emotion is out. Look, therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems in our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while in a constructive way, of course. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible, and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel available on YouTube as well as on Amazon Fire TV. Locked On Sports Day is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed to you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming you get from those national networks. You get calm, composed, animated, excited, knowledgeable experts like me covering the teams that they know everything about. Locked On Sports Day brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This has been a playoff series of inexperience for the Orlando Magic. Look, games 1 and 2, and the players really admitted this too, the road games hit them. They had never experienced road playoff games before, and it hit them. And they kind of freely admitted that, and just like the energy in the Kia Center lifted them up in Game 3, figuring out how to combat that energy on the road is going to be one of the challenges, and obviously Orlando has to do that once. They have to win one game in Cleveland to advance and win this series. And again, if They lose on Saturday. They got to win, obviously, 2 games in Cleveland. And obviously their last 3 games in the series. But this has been a series of inexperience, I think, also for Jamahl Mosley. And I know I said this, and I'm going to be a little critical of him here. I was certainly very critical of him through the first 2 games. I expected Jamahl Mosley to make mistakes in this series. And that sucks. It's terrible. You don't want the coach to make those mistakes. I did expect him to make errors. And guess what? In games 1 and 2, he made some major tactical errors. And I think, or let me roll that back a little bit. He made decisions I would not have made, for sure, that had logic to them and just didn't work out. And so the Magic lost these 2 games, and Jamahl Mosley said we needed to make a change, and Orlando made a change and actually made several adjustments that probably could have been made earlier, but they were made now, and the series is obviously still very alive. The big one that everyone's going to talk about is the Magic bringing Wendell Carter back into the starting lineup, which is something that I thought was the right decision from the start. I did not understand starting Jonathan Isaac unless there was a secret injury from Wendell Carter and they needed to limit his minutes. Obviously, he was dealing with the back spasms late in the season. I did not understand throwing, kind of tipping over a rotation that's been kind of set in stone for 2-3 months. And has worked, by the way. And for all its shortcomings, it's worked. It's been effective. It's gotten the job done. I did not quite understand throwing that out and trying something that really hadn't been tried all year, even though, I get it. Spreading Jonathan Isaac out to the 3-point line, I think, was something that they wanted to do. But I also think that, at looking back on it now and looking at how effective Wendell Carter was in this game, it kind of set the wrong physical message. It kind of sent the message that, we're going to play hands off and we're going to play cute and finesse with Jared Allen, when no. This is a physical team. This is a defensive-minded physical team. They like to bump. They like to grab. They like to steal. They like to poke. This is a team that wants to be physical. And, some of you might say Goga Batadze gives you the best chance of that. I'm not going to disagree there. But Wendell Carter does that more effectively than any of the options the Magic have typically done. And again, that starting lineup works. As much as it struggles also in some areas, it works. And so I think putting Wendell Carter back in the lineup, it gave the Magic a role threat, which I think they used very, very well. And Wendell Carter made it a point to hit Jared Allen on every rebound. After getting 18 and 20 rebounds in the first 2 games, Jared Allen only had 8. And I was watching it very carefully from the beginning of the game. Wendell Carter did not care if he got the rebound. He was going to put a body on Jared Allen and make sure he didn't get the rebound. And the Magic did a great job from there, covering and gang rebounding. Again, you look at the rebounding numbers. Paolo had 14, 7 defensive rebounds. Franz had 5. Mo Wagner had 6. No one guy had a lot of rebounds, but guess what? The Magic out-rebounded the Cavs in this game 51-32. And again, some of there's a lot more misses on the Cleveland side than the Orlando side, but Orlando also had 14 offensive rebounds, including 9 as a team in the first quarter. That was a statement. And so I think going bigger and going with a guy who's a more traditional center, and look, Jonathan Isaac is a physical player, but he is not a physical rebounder. He is not going to box out. He's, definitely still smaller, and Jared Allen can move him around. That was always my concern with whenever anyone said the Magic should play Jonathan Isaac at center. I was like, I don't know if he can hold up and withstand the physicality. And, to that point, he couldn't. On the other side of things, Isaac coming off the bench rejuvenated him too. The Magic saw the impact defensively from him. He made his shots. He was 3 for 5, 2 for 4 from beyond the arc. Had a block, had a steal. He looked a lot more rejuvenated playing in that role that he's comfortable playing. So I love this adjustment. I think that this was the right call. I don't think the Magic should have ever gone away from that starting lineup, but credit to Jamahl Mosley. I did think he was going to stick with it one more time until their backs were really against the wall. Kudos to him for deciding, it's not working. Let's move on. Let's get back to what we know. Let's get back to what we're comfortable. We lost these 2 games. We need to make sure we win. Let's do this. Should that have ever happened in the first place? I would say no, but I'll let you debate that. He made the right decision, and obviously there's still enough time to save the series. The other adjustment he made was they mixed up their coverages on Donovan Mitchell a whole lot more. They blitzed a little bit more. They did a good job generally keeping him in front, but They also finally put Jaylen Suggs on Donovan Mitchell. And I didn't disagree with the idea of Suggs guarding Darius Garland to just lock Garland out. To, just say, okay, Donovan Mitchell's going to get his 25, whatever. We can still be disruptive with Gary Harris. And look, Mitchell's had big scoring games. He had 19 he had 14 in the first quarter in game 2. Had a big game in game 1, and I didn't think they played poorly defensively on him in game 1. But the Magic putting Jaylen Suggs on him is saying, okay, we've got to commit to slowing this guy down a little bit more. And look, it worked. Donovan Mitchell only 13 points, 6 for 16 shooting, 1 for 6 from 3, 7 assists. So he got the ball moving at least a little bit, but and so did Darius Garland with 6 assists, by the way. But Orlando was still able to defend Garland effectively. He was 2 for 10 for 5 points. The Magic slowed down Mitchell and kind of knocked him out of the game a little bit in that second half, and that's when Orlando was able to pull away and really make this a laugher. And so credit to Jaylen Suggs and his defense. That defense and that, I honestly, like, doing that, it felt like that energized the team too. And again, look, the crowd was feeding them energy. Like, there was just a feedback loop of all the things that the Magic are really good at and the Magic do really well. This adjustment really did work for Orlando, but again, it was also just mixing up defensive schemes on Mitchell, just keeping him a little bit off balance. And, as much as we, want something measurable to say that the Magic did, like, the Magic just played a lot harder. Not that they weren't playing hard in games 1 and 2. They were more precise. They were more active. They were more energetic than they were in games 1 and 2. They were more confident. They were able to, one of the things I thought they did really well was they got downhill a lot more. They looked to turn misses into fast breaks, and they got out in transition a lot more. They had 22 fast break points. They turned 14 turnovers into 19 points. That's something they didn't do very effectively in Cleveland. Even when they were getting stops against Cleveland, all their best moments in the 2 games in Cleveland were when they were able to get down, when they were able to kind of pick up the pace. And so I do think there was an emphasis on picking up the pace and an emphasis on trying to play a little bit faster. And the Magic need that. I do think the Magic sometimes play a little bit too slow. This has actually been the highest paced series in the entire playoffs so far, like 95 possessions per 48 minutes, at least entering game 3. Orlando, I thought, did a very good job picking up the pace and trying to be more attentive to, let's get downhill, let's get in the paint, let's get set before the defense gets set. And again, it worked. It was effective. The Magic did the job in this game. Look, the other thing that I thought the Magic did well, and again, this is a credit to Jamal Mosley, it's something that he learned. The Magic did go 10 deep. They did go with the all-bench lineup, but the moment Donovan Mitchell came off the bench, the moment Donovan Mitchell got set to check back in, Jamal Mosley pulled Joe Ingles, pulled Markelle Fultz, got Jaylen Suggs, got Franz Wagner back in the game. So he bought, the Magic had a lead. They led by 10 after the first quarter. Big factor in this game, obviously. The Magic had a lead, so they could afford to give guys a little bit of a breather. They were fine with Markelle guarding Darius Garland. They were fine with that lineup with Evan Mobley in. But the moment Donovan Mitchell got up, Jaylen Suggs went to the table. The moment Jared Allen got up, Wendell Carter went to the table. The moment that the Cavs reloaded with the stars they're actually scared of, which is Mitchell and Allen, the Magic loaded up with a lineup that was more effective. I know we're all a little frustrated with the 10-man rotation. I do believe that Franz or Paolo have to be on the floor at all times. When you have a little bit of lead like the Magic had in this game, I get rolling the dice a little bit more. But I think this was effective coaching. This isn't something the Magic did in games 1 and 2. It honestly, I've been critical of Jamal Mosley this series, so I'm going to give him his kudos, but it just felt, and this is going to sound like a backhanded compliment because it probably is. Jamal Mosley came to the playoffs. Jamal Mosley finally coached a playoff game. The scheme the Magic have been running have been good, but certainly defensively, the Magic's defense has been the only thing consistent through all 3 games this series, overall at least. Not in the first quarter of game 1 and game 2, but the Magic's defense and the Cavs' poor 3-point shooting has been the only thing consistent across all 3 games. To me, that suggests Orlando's actually in more control of this series than we think. But now Orlando had a really good offensive game. Cleveland might have a good offensive game Saturday, but Orlando's now, Cleveland's now the one answering all the questions. So I think that's a credit to Jamal Mosley for both knowing that, hey, we're doing a lot of really good things. Let's just stay confident in those things and it'll turn process over results. but also understanding I've got to coach a little bit differently, where our backs are a little bit against the wall here. I've got to shorten rotations. I've got to make decisions that are more tactical within the game rather than sticking to a set plan like I would during the regular season. Credit to Jamal Mosley for doing that. I'll credit him for that adjustment. Should it have been made in game one? Absolutely. Is that an experience thing? Possibly, probably. But those adjustments, I feel like, won game three. The Magic played this game more like a playoff game. They made some key adjustments. They worked. At the end of the day, like, you can make the smartest adjustment in the world. If they're not executed effectively, it doesn't matter. In this game, the Magic executed their adjustments perfectly, and that's why they ended up winning the game. A big win for the Orlando Magic, won 21-83. I think that's the first time I mentioned the score in this podcast. We're going to go over the box score, talk more about individual performances, because it wasn't just Paolo in this game. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, more than 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. I know for me as a job seeker, LinkedIn's platform and LinkedIn's profiles for the companies, for what the role is, I trust that more than any job board that I go to. Like, I know I am getting the best information and really a clear-cut picture of the company that I'm interested in working for. So if that's what it's like as a job seeker, just think how easy it is for someone looking for a job. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. They're constantly finding ways to make that process easier to hire new employees. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions to make that process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring, so why don't you? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, we're going to go through the box score real fast. We're kind of running up on time here, but again, just look, if you are at the Kia Center, on Thursday night, you guys get a gold star. We'll play the song for you guys too. Awesome energy in that building. That is probably the loudest I've heard that building for a Magic game. The energy in that building was absolutely bonkers. We know how this Magic team responds to that and how this Magic team feeds off that energy. By the third quarter, when they were just running laps around Cleveland, they were flexing, they were strutting, they were pointing to the crowd, they were getting everybody into it, and you know that's why this city is connected so well to this team. There's just a bravado and a joy in this team, and you know we didn't really see a lot of that in Cleveland. You know, obviously you're dealing with a hostile crowd, and from some of the, you know, I didn't have any bad experience in Cleveland personally, but I heard that there were some bad experiences in Cleveland from some people that were there. But the Kia Center crowd brought it. That was awesome, and I'm expecting the same Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon is going to be a blast. I'm looking forward to it, and you know you got to bring the same energy because Cleveland's going to be coming for blood on Saturday, like plain and simple. They got embarrassed. All the questions and all the pressures on them now to avoid getting the series tied 2-2. You know, they'll say the same things Orlando did if they lose, but the pressure's on them now. But that's scary too, because you know pressure makes diamonds. So Orlando's going to have to come back with the same intensity after things came very easy in this game. But look, you have to work to get there, and you know Orlando struggled from the start. You know they really struggled at the beginning of this game. They missed their first 9 shots. They were 0 for 5 from 3. They really, you know, the first 3-4 minutes of this game, it felt like, here we go again. Good shots aren't falling. Cleveland's raced out to a little bit of a lead. They've got a little bit of control. Orlando's just trying to keep their head above water. And then Paolo hit the crazy shot over Evan Mobley, his first make. He missed his first 5 shots. He hits his first make. He knows he's got it going after that because he was just trying to draw a foul and he put it in. And then Orlando made a three. They made back-to-back threes, and you could feel that pressure getting lifted. You could feel that energy just building, like, okay, we got this. We're back in this. And obviously Orlando won the first quarter 31-21. I will continue to say this, the first quarter of every game against the Cavs, the first quarter is determined who's won the game. There's the closest game in this series this season's been 7 points, and that was the game after the All-Star break without Donovan Mitchell. Every game of this series has been determined in the first quarter. And Orlando had to win the first quarter. They had to be competitive in the first quarter to have a chance in this game. And, they didn't blow the doors open right away, but they started hitting threes, and you could just feel the confidence. You could just feel it there, like, okay, this team's going to be okay. They're defending at such a high level. They're going to be fine. And obviously that's how things played out. Look, it wasn't just Paolo in this game. Paolo had 31 points, obviously 13 for 26. We talked about him tremendously. Jaylen Suggs really showed up. The Magic have gotten so little from their guards in this series, and Gary Harris missed all his threes in this game. But again, I still think he played well, especially defending Darius Garland. But Jaylen Suggs stepped up, 24 points, 9 for 11 shooting, 3 for 5 from 3, 3 for 3 from the foul line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, 2 steals. Just like all over the place. Great defense on Donovan Mitchell. Hit his threes, was confident hitting his shots, hit some step backs, was smart when he attacked Evan Mobley, smart when he attacked the bigs. Just did a good job just being present and being in the moment and finding the gaps to attack and score. And obviously, was aggressive. He had a huge dunk, and Wendell Carter cleared the runway for it. He had a breakaway dunk. He was that, he is the heart and soul of this team, and he was pumping fast. The adrenaline was rolling, the energy in the crowd really feeds him, and he obviously had a huge game for it. Franz Wagner, a solid game as well. 16 points, 6 for 12 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3. That means he was 6 for 7 on 2-point, or 5 for 7 on 2-point field goals, which is pretty good. One of those was a block dunk. 5 rebounds, 8 assists. So what I loved about Franz was he did a great job getting into the paint. And he showed this a little bit in game 2, but he really embraced it in game 3. And I think he's going to have to embrace it the rest of the series because he's not going to get all the way to the basket. He's hitting that step back Dirk that we saw a little bit at the beginning of last year. The little mini Dirk, the little mini Franz Dirk. That shot's going to be there for him. And he's going to have to take it to be able to get to the basket and force guys to defend him a little bit further away from the basket. But I love that. I love that he's taking that shot. I love that he's still getting to his spots and getting the paint and, getting to the rim. I don't care. I don't care. He got blocked by Jared Allen on a dunk attempt. I love that he tried to dunk it on him. I love that he tried to do that. Now that led to a 3 on the other end, which isn't good, but I love the no fear. Even in that miss, you could feel okay, that's a turning point in this game because there's no fear. Yes, he got blocked, but he doesn't care. He's going to come right back and try again. That's what this team needs. And so I love Franz's effort in this game. He defended really hard too. Magic were switching a little bit less, but he got his turn on Donovan Mitchell. He got his turn on some of the big players for the Cavs. And, he's an underrated defender. He holds his own, and I really loved his game. Markelle Fultz off the bench with 11 points, 4 for 6 shooting, 3 for 4 from the foul line. Just, making shots. Being around the rim, just not being afraid of the shot blockers. Even if you miss, not being afraid to attack. That's what the Magic needed. Sometimes, I think in this series, they've been a little bit afraid to attack Cleveland's size. They can't be afraid. Even if you get your shot blocked, even if you miss, don't be afraid. That fear spreads to everybody, and then you're less aggressive. You got to be aggressive in the series, even if you're not making. Cole Anthony finally made a shot. Made 4 of them. 4 of 7 from the floor, 1 for 3 from 3, 10 points, 3 rebounds. Just excellent to see Cole get himself into a little bit of a rhythm. Excellent to see Cole get some shots to go. And again, just they need him. They need to lift off the bench. I loved what the bench group did for Orlando in this game. They more than held the boat steady. They won their minutes, pretty handily, which is what the Magic need. But, at the end of the day, the starters did the job. Paolo did the job. Franz did the job. Jaylen Suggs did the job. Wendell Carter only scored 2 points on 1 for 4 shooting, had only 5 rebounds, but man, was he big. The box score, and I'm going to hopefully do a video on this. We'll talk about it at least on my various websites tomorrow. Wendell Carter did the job. I loved the effort that Wendell Carter put in. It wasn't about him. It wasn't about any of his stats. He was there to make sure Jared Allen was not the factor that he was in game 2. And Wendell Carter did that. He's so smart at tracking back to block lobs and deter lob attacks on pick and rolls. Like, that's something, Jonathan Isaac can theoretically do, but Wendell Carter has that mastered. Like, that art form is mastered on his part. I loved his game. I loved what he brought to this team. And, it was always the right decision to start. I'm sorry I have to say that, but I always thought that was the right decision and loved what he did. Again, Orlando just shut down Cleveland, 39% shooting, 8 for 34. That's 23.5% from 3. They were only 11 of 13 from the foul line, just 5 offensive rebounds for the Cavaliers after destroying the Magic on the glass in game 2. 14 turnovers for 19 points. Orlando wins the paint 48-42. First time they won the paint in this series. Let's see what else. Only 9 second chance points, only 11 fast break points. Again, just the series is coming down to who's making shots because both these defenses are going to hold firm. I suspected that there would be one good shooting game from the Magic. I suspect there's a good shooting game coming from the Cavs, whether the Magic can survive that or not. But again, like when we kind of take the macroscopic view of this series now, we've had 3 games. The Magic shooting is an outlier. Maybe that's permanent, maybe that's not. We'll find out on Saturday. But in all 3 games, Orlando's defense was excellent. Overall, maybe some holes here and there, but through 3 games, Orlando's defense has been excellent, and Cleveland's shooting has been poor. And so now the pressure, as we get ready for game 4 on Saturday, the pressure is on Cleveland now. Cleveland's got to figure out, okay, can we bet that the Magic are going to have another bad shooting night? Or how do we adjust to make sure that we get them to take the shots we want, that they're not playing as comfortably, frankly, as they did. And some of it's going to be Cleveland's going to play a lot harder on Saturday. They're going to play with a lot more intensity and ferocity, and Orlando's going to need to be able to be ready for it and match it. And obviously at home, it's going to be a little bit easier to do that, but Orlando's got to be prepared. Are we going to shoot this well? Are we going to get the same quality of shots, or is Cleveland going to force us back into what we did in games 1 and 2? Are we going to be able to make those shots when they come? That's going to be the big question for game 4. Orlando's brought the defense all series. So if they bring that defense again, game 4 is going to be a game that the Magic can win. Now, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to make any predictions about game 4. I think game 4 is going to be very, very tough. I'm expecting a much more focused and better Cleveland effort. I'm expecting them to try and punch first and quiet that crowd again. They felt that crowd too. Orlando's going to have to, again, jump on them a little bit, get the crowd going, and give the crowd a reason to be engaged and may be a factor in this one to try and tie this series up. Again, it's very much in front of them to be able to tie this series and make it the series that we all thought it was going to be at the beginning. Or, again, I know I've said this a million times. The difference between a 2-2 series and a 3-1 series is one shot sometimes. Again, it's a very fine margin, but a 3-1 series is very different from a 2-2 series. The Magic are going to be fighting to make this a 2-2 series on Saturday. They have to bring the same must-win energy that they brought to Game 3 into Game 4 if they want to A, get a third home game, but B, really make this an interesting series, make this a best of 3 when we head back to Cleveland on Tuesday. The Orlando Magic defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers 121-83. I hope everyone that got to the game had an amazing time. Let's bring the energy again on Saturday. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the phone-based podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can, of course, find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And, of course, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub. You can find that at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub for even more Magic content. I'm going to hopefully do a video breakdown of what Wendell Carter did so well since he did not show up on the box score very much. We'll get to that hopefully tomorrow on the Orlando Magic Hub. Check it out again at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out our friends at Locked On Sports Today, the 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and now available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.